You're my best friend. When a rich girl hugged a single dad dishwasher, his reaction melted her heart. But what she never expected was the secret pain he carried. And the moment that could tear them apart forever. Will love be enough to break through pride, grief, and a world determined to keep them apart? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The bell above Miller's Diner chimed softly as Claire Montgomery stepped inside, grateful for the warmth that enveloped her. Outside, autumn leaves skittered across the sidewalk in the chilly evening breeze. She pulled the borrowed coat, a simple brown wool thing she'd grabbed from her driver, tighter around her designer gown, trying to blend in with the casual dinner crowd. The familiar scent of coffee and homemade pie wrapped around her like a comfort blanket, so different from the stuffy perfumes and pretentious hors d'oeuvres at the charity gala she'd just escaped. Her high heels clicked against the checkered floor as she made her way to the counter, earning a few curious glances from the regulars. "Evening, sugar." Betty, the elderly waitress, called out with a welcoming smile. "Bit overdressed for our humble establishment, aren't you?" Claire managed a tired smile. "The diner's exactly what I need right now, Betty." She slid onto a worn red vinyl stool, careful not to snag her dress. "Just coffee, please." As Betty poured the steaming liquid into a ceramic mug, Claire's attention drifted to the back of the diner. Through the service window, she could see a man washing dishes, his movements methodical and precise, despite his obvious exhaustion. His plain white t-shirt was damp with dishwater. But there was something dignified about the way he carried himself. A small voice pierced through the quiet murmur of the diner. "Daddy, you're done." Claire turned to see a little girl, no more than 7 or 8, bounce up from a corner booth where she'd been coloring. Her dark pigtails swung as she gathered her backpack and art supplies, stuffing them in with the careless enthusiasm of childhood. The dishwasher emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. His face transformed when he saw his daughter, the weariness lifting like morning fog. "Hey, Princess," he said softly. "Sorry I'm running late. Did you finish your homework?" "Almost all of it." The girl held up a slightly crumpled worksheet. "I got stuck on the reading part, though." Her lower lip trembled slightly. "The words keep jumping around." The father knelt down to her level, his expression gentle. "That's okay, Lily. We'll work on it together when we get home." He tucked a stray hair behind her ear with such tenderness that Claire felt her throat tighten. Without warning, Lily spun around and noticed Claire watching them. Instead of shying away, her face lit up like a Christmas tree. Before anyone could react, she darted over to the counter. "Hi!" Lily beamed up at Claire, completely unfazed by the elegant dress or careful makeup. "I like your sparkly dress. It looks like starlight." Claire couldn't help but smile back. "Thank you. I like your butterfly hair clips." "They're my favorite," Lily declared. Then, with the beautiful impulsiveness of childhood, she threw her arms around Claire's waist. "You're my best friend." Claire froze, startled by the sudden display of affection. Her own childhood had been filled with carefully orchestrated playdates and proper social etiquette. Spontaneous hugs were definitely not part of the Montgomery way. "Lily!" Her father hurried over, his face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, ma'am." She gets a little enthusiastic sometimes. He gently tried to pull Lily back, but she just giggled and hugged him instead. Up close, Claire could see the subtle traces of silver in his dark hair, the tiny worry lines around his eyes that spoke of both laughter and struggle. His name tag read Ethan, and despite his disheveled appearance, there was something compelling about his quiet strength. "It's perfectly fine," Claire assured him, smoothing her dress. "Actually, it's the most genuine interaction I've had all evening." Ethan's eyes met hers for a moment, and Claire felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. There was a depth there, a whole world of stories behind that guarded expression. He quickly looked away, but not before Claire caught a glimpse of something that mirrored her own loneliness. "Come on, Princess," Ethan said, taking Lily's hand. "Time to head home. Say goodnight to." He paused, realizing he didn't know Claire's name. "Claire," she supplied softly. "Good night, Claire." Lily waved enthusiastically with her free hand. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Maybe you can help me with my reading. You look like you know lots of good stories." "Lily," Ethan warned gently, but there was affection in his tone. "Let's not bother the nice lady." Claire watched as they walked toward the door, Lily skipping every few steps while chattering about her day. Ethan listened attentively, responding with quiet words that made his daughter laugh. Just before they left, Lily turned back one last time to wave, and Ethan's eyes briefly met Claire's again. The bell chimed as they disappeared into the autumn evening, leaving Claire alone with her cooling coffee and a strange ache in her heart. She took a sip, barely tasting it, her mind filled with images of warm smiles and spontaneous hugs, everything her world of marble halls and strategic charity lacked. Betty appeared with the coffee pot, topping off Claire's cup. "Those two are something special," she commented, following Claire's gaze to the door. "Been coming here ever since Sarah, that's Lily's mama, passed away. Ethan works himself to the bone for that little girl." Claire wrapped her hands around the warm mug, feeling the weight of that information settle in her chest. She thought about the careful way Ethan had straightened Lily's backpack, the gentle patience in his voice when she mentioned struggling with reading, the love that radiated from their simple interactions. Through the diner's wide windows, she could see them walking down the sidewalk, their joined hands swinging slightly. Lily's backpack bounced with each step, and even from a distance, Claire could see the protective way Ethan curved toward his daughter, shielding her from the evening chill. The lunch rush at Miller's Diner had just ended when Claire pushed through the glass door, her casual sweater and jeans a stark contrast to last night's elegant attire. Sunlight streamed through the windows, catching dust motes, dancing in the air, and illuminating the worn checkerboard floor tiles. Her heart quickened as she spotted Lily perched on a red vinyl stool at the counter, tongue poking out in concentration as she hunched over a coloring book. Crayons were scattered around her like fallen autumn leaves, some rolled precariously close to the counter's edge. Behind the counter, Ethan moved with practiced efficiency, his strong hands working through a stack of dishes. The sleeves of his white work shirt were rolled up to his elbows, and a faded blue dish towel hung from his back pocket. He glanced up as the bell announced Claire's arrival, his expression guarded but not unwelcoming. "Miss Claire." Lily's face lit up like a sunrise. She waved enthusiastically, nearly knocking over her glass of chocolate milk. "Look at my drawing." Claire made her way to the counter, settling onto the stool next to Lily. "May I see?" she asked, smiling as the little girl proudly pushed her coloring book closer. "It's a princess," Lily explained, pointing to a figure dressed in purple, the crayon marks extending well beyond the printed lines. "But she doesn't live in a castle. She works at the library 'cause she loves books." Claire leaned in closer, noticing how Lily struggled to read the simple text beneath the picture. The young girl's finger traced the words hesitantly, her confidence faltering. "That's a wonderful story," Claire said gently. She caught Ethan watching them from the corner of her eye as he dried another plate. "Do you like to read, Lily?" The little girl's shoulders slumped slightly. "Reading's hard," she admitted quietly. "The letters get mixed up sometimes." Ethan set down his dish towel, moving closer to his daughter. His protective instinct was visible in the way he squared his shoulders, but there was also pain in his eyes, the look of a parent who wished he could fix everything for his child. "I used to help kids with reading at the community center," Claire said, the words tumbling out before she could second-guess herself. "I could. I mean, if you'd like, I could help you practice." Lily's eyes grew wide with excitement. "Really? Like a reading princess?" Claire laughed softly. "Well, maybe not quite a princess, but I'd love to help." "Dad, please?" Lily turned to Ethan, hope radiating from her small face. "Can Miss Claire teach me?" Ethan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His eyes met Claire's, searching for something, perhaps any sign of insincerity or condescension. That's very kind of you to offer, but—" "Please, Daddy?" Lily clasped her hands together. "I promise I'll work super hard." Claire recognized the internal struggle playing across Ethan's features. Pride warred with practicality, love for his daughter battling against distrust of strangers, especially one who clearly came from money, despite her casual clothes. "We could start with just one session," Claire suggested quietly. "See how it goes. No pressure, no obligations." Ethan ran a hand through his dark hair, leaving it slightly disheveled. His gaze shifted between his daughter's pleading expression and Claire's earnest one. Finally, his shoulders relaxed slightly. "One trial session," he agreed, his voice rough with reluctance. "We'll see after that." "Yes!" Lily bounced on her stool, nearly toppling it. Ethan's hand shot out automatically to steady her, the motion so natural it spoke volumes about their daily life together. "When would be good for you?" Claire asked, directing the question to Ethan rather than the excited child. "I'm off tomorrow afternoon," he said, after a moment's consideration. "Lily gets out of school at 3. "Perfect," Claire smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "We could meet here? Unless there's somewhere else you'd prefer." "Here's fine." Ethan nodded, his expression still cautious but softening around the edges. It's good of you to do this." Claire gathered her purse, standing from the stool. "Tomorrow at 3, then." "Tomorrow at 3," Lily echoed, practically vibrating with excitement. She scrambled down from her seat and threw her arms around Claire's waist in an impulsive hug. Claire's throat tightened with unexpected emotion as she hugged the little girl back. When she straightened, she found Ethan watching them with an unreadable expression. Outside the diner, Claire paused on the sidewalk, looking back through the large window. Lily stood pressed against the glass, waving enthusiastically with both hands. Behind her, Ethan gave a single, measured nod. Acknowledgement and warning, wrapped into one simple gesture. Hope flickered in Claire's chest like a candle flame, small but persistent. She waved back at Lily, then turned and walked away, already looking forward to tomorrow's afternoon. The evening sun cast long shadows through the small living room window of Ethan's second-floor apartment. Claire sat cross-legged on the worn carpet, her designer jeans a stark contrast to the humble surroundings. Around her and Lily, picture books lay scattered like colorful islands on a beige sea. The apartment was modest but meticulously clean. A second-hand couch with a carefully patched arm faced a small TV, and family photos lined the walls in simple frames. A gentle breeze carried the scent of brewing coffee from the kitchen, where Ethan busied himself washing dishes, his back turned, but his attention clearly divided between his task and the quiet scene behind him. "Okay, Lily," Claire said softly, holding up a book with bright illustrations. "Let's try something fun. Instead of reading straight through, why don't we take turns being different characters?" Lily's eyes lit up, her small fingers tracing the book's cover. "Can I be the princess?" "Of course, and I'll be the dragon." Claire lowered her voice to a playful growl, making Lily giggle. The sound echoed through the apartment like music. In the kitchen, Ethan's hands slowed their work. He hadn't heard that laugh in months. Claire pointed to a word on the page. "Now, what does this say? Remember how we broke down the sounds?" Lily's forehead wrinkled in concentration. "See, Castle? That's right," Claire beamed, giving Lily a high five. "You're getting so good at this. Now, let's see what happens when the princess meets the dragon." They continued reading, Claire patiently helping Lily sound out words, turning each challenge into a game. When Lily struggled with a particularly difficult word, Claire pulled out colored index cards from her bag. "Here's a trick I learned," she said, writing the word in bright markers. "We'll make it special. See how through has these letter friends that stick together? Let's give them different colors." Lily leaned forward, fascinated. "Like a rainbow word." "Exactly like a rainbow word." Claire smiled, her heart warming at Lily's enthusiasm. From his vantage point in the kitchen, Ethan watched as his daughter's shoulders relaxed, her usual frustration with reading melting away under Claire's gentle guidance. He noticed how Claire never rushed, never showed impatience, even when Lily stumbled over the same word multiple times. The kitchen timer beeped, and Ethan pulled a batch of chocolate chip cookies from the oven. The sweet aroma filled the apartment, drawing both heads to turn toward the kitchen. "Daddy makes the best cookies," Lily announced proudly. "They're even better than the diner's." Claire caught Ethan's eye, and he gave a slight shrug, the tips of his ears reddening. "They're just from a box mix," he said gruffly. But there was a hint of pleasure in his voice. "Would you like to take a little break?" Claire asked Lily. "We can practice reading the recipe next time." Lily bounced up, her dark curls dancing. "Can we, Daddy? Can Miss Claire help me read your recipe box?" Ethan placed a plate of cookies on the coffee table, along with a glass of milk for Lily. "We'll see," he said, but his tone was softer than before. 10-minute break, then back to reading. As Lily munched happily on her cookies, Claire noticed a drawing taped to the refrigerator, a crayon family portrait. 3 figures stood hand in hand, a tall one labeled Daddy, a small one labeled Me, and a third figure with wings and a halo labeled Mommy in Heaven. The sight made Claire's throat tighten. She quickly turned her attention back to Lily, who was already pulling another book from the pile. "This one next," Lily declared, holding up a well-loved copy of Where the Wild Things Are. They spent the next hour reading together, with Lily growing more confident with each page. Claire introduced more games. They acted out scenes, made up silly voices, and created memory tricks for tricky words. Each small victory was celebrated with enthusiasm, and even Ethan found himself drawn closer, eventually settling into the armchair nearby. When Lily successfully read an entire page with only minimal help, she launched herself into Claire's arms. "I did it!" she exclaimed. Claire hugged her back, catching the flash of emotion that crossed Ethan's face, joy mixed with something deeper, more complex. As the evening drew to a close, Claire gathered her teaching materials into her bag. The stack of books they'd conquered sat neatly on the coffee table, bookmark ribbons marking their progress. "Time to say goodbye to Miss Claire," Ethan prompted, standing up from his chair. Lily's face fell slightly, but she helped Claire pack up the last of the index cards. "Will you come back tomorrow?" she asked hopefully. "If it's okay with your dad," Claire replied, glancing at Ethan. He nodded, his expression careful but not unkind. "Same time tomorrow works. Thank you for—" He paused, searching for words, "for being patient with her." Claire shouldered her bag, touched by his simple acknowledgement. As she moved toward the door, Lily wrapped her arms around Claire's waist in a tight hug. "See you tomorrow, best friend," Lily whispered, her face pressed against Claire's sweater. Ethan held the door open, managing a brief "thanks again" as Claire stepped into the hallway. She could feel his eyes on her as she walked toward the stairs, her heart full from the evening's simple joys. Behind her, she heard the gentle click of the apartment door closing, and Lily's muffled voice excitedly recounting their reading adventures to her father. Claire smiled all the way to her car, the taste of chocolate chip cookies still sweet on her tongue. Sunlight dappled through the maple trees at Jefferson Park, casting shifting patterns on the checkered blanket Claire had spread across the grass. The morning air held the crisp sweetness of early autumn, carrying the sounds of children's laughter from the nearby playground. Claire arranged homemade turkey sandwiches on paper plates, each cut diagonally just the way her childhood nanny used to do it. She'd woken up early to make them, determined to create something with her own hands rather than ordering from the family chef. "These look yummy." Lily bounced on her knees, her pigtails swaying with excitement. She wore a slightly faded yellow dress that Claire noticed had been carefully mended at the hem. "I hope they taste as good as they look," Claire said, handing Lily a plate. "I'm not exactly a master chef." Ethan sat cross-legged on the blanket's edge, his usual work-worn jeans exchanged for a clean pair. He accepted a sandwich with a quiet thanks, his fingers briefly brushing against Claire's. "Daddy makes the best grilled cheese," Lily announced between bites. "But yours is good too." Claire watched Ethan's face soften at his daughter's words. "Well, when grilled cheese is 90% of your cooking repertoire, you get pretty good at it," he said with a self-deprecating smile. "I bet you're selling yourself short," Claire said. "What else do you cook?" Ethan shrugged, but Lily jumped in. "He makes super-duper good spaghetti, and sometimes we have breakfast for dinner, with funny-face pancakes." "Sounds wonderful," Claire said, meaning it. "My family never had meals like that. Usually we all ate separately. Dad in his office, Mom at her charity meetings. The dining room table was more for show than anything else." "But that's so sad." Lily's face scrunched with genuine concern. "Who did you talk to about your day?" Claire felt a lump form in her throat. "Usually just Martha, She hesitated, then continued. "Our housekeeper. She would sit with me sometimes when she could." Ethan's expression changed slightly, studying her with new interest. "Must have been lonely," he said quietly. "It was." Claire picked at the grass beside the blanket. "That's why I love coming here, being with you both. It feels real." A comfortable silence fell as they finished their sandwiches. Lily spotted a friend from school at the playground and looked questioningly at her father. "Go ahead, sweetheart." Ethan nodded. "Stay where we can see you." As Lily ran off, her laughter trailing behind her, Ethan turned to Claire. "It's not easy, you know, being everything for her. Some days I wonder if I'm doing enough." "From what I've seen, you're doing amazing," Claire said. "Lily adores you." Her mother, Sarah, she was the organized one, had everything figured out: school schedules, doctor appointments, which shoes fit and which were too small. His voice grew quiet. "Sometimes I still find little notes she left in random places, reminders about Lily's allergies or favorite bedtime stories." Claire's heart ached at the raw honesty in his voice. "How long has it been?" 2 years next month." Ethan watched Lily on the swings, her legs pumping high into the air. "She was sick for a while before that. Working through it, because we needed the insurance. The hotel wouldn't." He stopped abruptly, jaw tightening. Claire leaned forward, drawn by the pain in his voice. "That's terrible. No one should have to choose between their health and their job." "Yeah, well," Ethan's shoulders straightened. "We got through it. Lily and me, we make it work." "You're stronger than I could ever be," Claire said softly. Ethan turned to her then, really looked at her, and for a moment something electric passed between them. "You're stronger than you think," he said. Claire felt warmth spread through her chest. The morning sun caught the stubble on Ethan's jaw, the tiny laugh lines around his eyes. She found herself wanting to reach out, to trace the path of that sunlight with her fingers. The moment broke when Lily called out, "Daddy, watch this!" They turned to see her attempting a cartwheel, ending in a giggling tumble. Claire began gathering the paper plates and napkins, slipping them into her tote bag. As she did, her phone fell out onto the blanket. The latest model in its distinctive designer case, complete with the golden logo that marked it as part of an exclusive collection. Ethan's eyes fixed on it, then moved to her simple sundress, seeing it with new eyes, the quality of the fabric, the subtle designer label. His expression shifted, almost imperceptibly, but Claire caught it. The easy openness of moments before disappeared behind a careful mask. "We should probably head back," he said, his voice neutral. "Lily has homework to finish." "Of course," Claire agreed, trying to recapture the warmth of their earlier conversation. But something had changed. As they folded the blanket together, Ethan's movements were precise and distant, his eyes avoiding hers. Lily came running back, her face flushed with exercise and joy. "Can Miss Claire come over later, please?" "Not today, sweetheart." Ethan's tone was gentle but firm. "We've got chores to do." Claire watched as he lifted the blanket, now neatly folded, and held it out to her. His fingers didn't brush hers this time. The morning's easy companionship had vanished, replaced by something wary and guarded. The kitchen of Miller's Diner hummed with its usual Monday night rhythm. Steam rose from the industrial dishwasher as Ethan methodically loaded another rack of plates. His muscles worked on autopilot, mind wandering to Lily's improving reading scores, when Joe, the short-order cook, called out over the clatter, "Hey, Brooks, isn't this that tutor of Lily's?" Ethan glanced up, his hands still moving. Joe held up the local newspaper, pointing to a glossy photo that made Ethan's heart stop. There was Claire, elegant in an evening gown, standing beside a towering Christmas tree at what looked like a charity gala. The headline read, "Harris Claire Montgomery supports local children's charity." The plate, in Ethan's hand, slipped, shattering against the floor. Ceramic shards scattered across the tiles like pieces of his trust breaking apart. "Montgomery?" His voice came out rough. "As in Montgomery Hotels?" Joe nodded, scanning the article. "Yeah. Says here she's Richard Montgomery's daughter. You know, the hotel chain guy? Man, didn't realize you had such fancy help with Lily." Ethan's ears rang. Images of Sarah, his late wife, flashed through his mind, her exhausted face after double shifts at the Montgomery Grand, her desperate plea to her supervisor for medical leave, the way she'd tried to hide her worsening cough, the same cough that had turned into pneumonia, that had— He couldn't finish the thought. "Cover for me," Ethan muttered, untying his apron with shaking hands. "I need to leave early." The drive home felt endless. Each traffic light gave him more time to remember Sarah's final weeks, the mounting medical bills, the cold letter denying her insurance claim because she hadn't qualified for medical leave. All while the Montgomerys hosted lavish parties in their marble-floored ballrooms. When he arrived home, Mrs. Peterson from next door was just leaving. Through the door, he could hear Claire and Lily's voices, bright with laughter over some shared joke. The sound that had once warmed his heart now felt like a mockery. He waited until Mrs. Peterson was gone before entering. Claire and Lily sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by books and colorful flashcards. His daughter's face lit up. "Daddy, look what I can read now!" But Ethan's eyes fixed on Claire, seeing her differently now. The simple sweater and jeans she wore seemed like a costume, hiding the privileged heiress underneath. "Lily," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Time to get ready for bed, but we're not finished. Now, please." Something in his tone made Lily hesitate. She hugged Claire quickly. "Good night, Miss Claire. See you tomorrow." Claire began gathering her things, but Ethan remained standing by the door, arms crossed. As soon as Lily's bedroom door clicked shut, he spoke. "Were you ever going to mention your Claire Montgomery?" She froze, one hand clutching her lesson planner. I didn't think it mattered." "Didn't matter?" His laugh held no humor. "That your family owns the hotel chain where my wife worked herself sick? Where she begged for medical leave and got denied?" Color drained from Claire's face. "What?" Sarah Brooks. She was a housekeeper at the Montgomery Grand. Ring any bells? Probably not just another replaceable employee, right? "Ethan, I had no idea. Save it." He ran a hand through his hair, voice tight with controlled anger. "I don't need your pity. Is that what this is? Poor widower and his struggling daughter, perfect project for your next charity photo op." Claire stood, her hands trembling. "That's not fair. I care about Lily. And you—" "Care?" Ethan's voice cracked. "You live in a world where care means writing checks and feeling good about yourself. Meanwhile, real people, people like Sarah, suffer because of policies your family makes from their ivory tower." Tears welled in Claire's eyes. "I'm not my father. I'm trying to make a difference. By slumming it with us? Teaching my daughter to read so you can— What add it to your list of good deeds?" "Stop it," Claire's voice rose, then quickly lowered as she glanced toward Lily's room. "You know that's not true. These past weeks, getting to know you both, it's been real. Please don't let your anger at my family destroy that." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Real? Nothing about this has been real. You showed up playing pretend, hiding who you really are." "I wasn't hiding, I was just being myself. The person I actually am, not the heiress everyone expects me to be." The sound of a door opening made them both turn. Lily stood in her pajamas, eyes wide and worried. "Miss Claire, are you leaving?" Claire wiped her eyes quickly. I should go." "No." Lily ran forward, wrapping her arms around Claire's waist. "You're my best friend. Please don't go." Claire's hand trembled as she stroked Lily's hair. "I'm sorry, sweetie. I have to." "Daddy?" Lily looked at him pleadingly. "Make her stay." The sight of his daughter's tears twisted something in Ethan's chest, but the bitterness won out. He opened the front door wider. "Say good night, Lily." Claire gently disentangled herself from Lily's grip, gathering her belongings with shaking hands. She paused at the doorway, looking at Ethan with red-rimmed eyes. "I never meant to hurt anyone. Goodbye, Miss Montgomery." Lily's sobs followed Claire down the hallway. Ethan shut the door firmly, then leaned against it, his daughter's crying piercing his heart. The righteous anger that had fueled him moments ago began to mix with doubt. But when he closed his eyes, all he could see was Sarah's face in that hospital bed, and the Montgomery name on the denial letters that had arrived too late to matter. Claire stood at the door of Ethan's apartment building, clutching a canvas bag full of colorful children's books. Her heart pounded as she pressed the buzzer for apartment 3B. The evening air felt heavy with autumn's chill, matching the weight in her chest. After what seemed like forever, Ethan's voice crackled through the intercom. "Yes? It's Claire," she said softly. "I brought some new books for Lily." Silence stretched between them. Claire shifted from foot to foot, about to turn away when the door buzzed open. She climbed the worn stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. Lily was waiting at their apartment door, bouncing on her toes with excitement. "Best friend," Lily launched herself at Claire, wrapping small arms around her waist. "Daddy said you might not come back, but I knew you would." Claire's eyes met Ethan's over Lily's head. He stood in the doorway, jaw tight but expression softer than she expected. Dark circles under his eyes suggested sleepless nights. "Come in," he said gruffly. "Lily needs to finish her homework before bedtime." The apartment felt different tonight. The usual warmth was there, crayon drawings taped to the fridge, the smell of mac and cheese lingering in the air, but tension crackled beneath the surface. Claire settled at the kitchen table with Lily, while Ethan moved around the small space, tidying up and keeping his distance. "Look what I brought," Claire said, pulling out books with bright covers. "This one's about a brave princess who saves her kingdom." Lily's eyes lit up. "Can we read it at bedtime?" Claire glanced at Ethan, who gave a slight nod while folding laundry across the room. They worked through Lily's math homework first. Claire noticed how Ethan watched them from the corner of his eye, his movements slower, more deliberate than usual. When Lily struggled with a problem, Claire guided her gently, and she caught the ghost of approval on Ethan's face. As the clock ticked toward bedtime, Lily changed into her pink pajamas with dancing unicorns. She clutched the new princess book to her chest, looking between Claire and her father. "Can Claire read to me tonight, please, Daddy?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "One story." Then lights out. In Lily's small bedroom, stuffed animals watched from shelves as Claire settled into the reading chair. Lily snuggled under her flowered comforter, eyes bright with anticipation. Ethan lingered in the doorway, arms crossed but listening. Claire began reading, giving each character a different voice, just as Lily liked. The story followed a princess who discovered that true strength came from kindness, not power. Lily hung on every word, occasionally pointing at the illustrations with delighted gasps. As the story drew to a close, Lily's eyes grew heavy. Claire tucked the book away and smoothed the blanket around the little girl's shoulders. "Thank you for coming back," Lily whispered, her voice thick with sleep. She reached for Claire's hand, holding it close. "I missed you so much." Claire's throat tightened. "I missed you too, sweetheart." Lily's next words came out soft and drowsy. "Mommy says you're my daddy." The room went still. Claire's heart stopped. From the doorway came a sharp intake of breath. "What did you say, baby?" Ethan's voice cracked. But Lily had already drifted off, her small face peaceful in sleep, unaware of the earthquake her innocent words had caused. Claire sat frozen, tears welling in her eyes. She could feel Ethan's presence behind her, heavy with pain. When she finally found the courage to turn around, the anguish on his face nearly broke her. He stood there, one hand gripping the doorframe so hard his knuckles were white. His eyes fixed on his sleeping daughter, filled with a father's love and an ocean of grief. The careful walls he'd built around his heart seemed to crack and crumble before Claire's eyes. Carefully, trying not to wake Lily, Claire rose from the chair. Ethan moved into the room like a sleepwalker, his movements mechanical as he bent to kiss his daughter's forehead. His hand trembled as he brushed back her hair, tucking it behind her ear. When he straightened, his eyes met Claire's. In them, she saw everything he couldn't say. The raw wound of his wife's loss, the struggle of raising Lily alone, and now this new fear that his daughter's heart was creating dangerous fantasies, weaving dreams that could only lead to more hurt. The silence between them felt endless, filled with unspoken words and impossible wishes. Claire wanted to reach out, to offer comfort, but she knew any gesture would be unwelcome now. Instead, she stood witness to this father's pain, understanding for the first time the true depth of what was at stake. Ethan adjusted Lily's nightlight, his movements careful and practiced. His love for his daughter radiated from every gentle gesture, even as worry lined his face. Claire recognized the new barrier in his stance, not just protecting himself now, but fiercely guarding his little girl's fragile heart. They stepped out of Lily's room together, Ethan pulling the door nearly closed, leaving just a crack of light. In the hallway, their eyes met one final time. The turmoil in his gaze said everything. This was more complicated than either of them had imagined, and the stakes were higher than ever. The morning rush at Miller's Diner had slowed to a trickle. When Claire walked in, her designer boots clicking against the worn linoleum floor. She carried a bright yellow tote bag filled with flashcards and learning materials, her determined expression matching her purposeful stride. Ethan looked up from behind the counter where he was sorting silverware, his jaw tightening at the sight of her. "We're not doing this today," he said, his voice low but firm. Claire set her bag on the counter anyway. "Yes, we are," she replied, pulling out a stack of colorful flashcards. "Lily needs consistency in her learning, and I promised her I'd help." A few regular customers glanced their way, making Ethan shift uncomfortably. He leaned closer, speaking quietly. "Look, I appreciate what you've done. But after yesterday, nothing has changed about Lily's needs," Claire interrupted, keeping her voice gentle but unwavering. "She's making progress, Ethan. Real progress." As if on cue, Lily burst through the diner's front door, her backpack bouncing against her small frame. "Miss Claire!" she squealed, running straight for them. "You came back!" Ethan watched his daughter's face light up, and something in his rigid posture softened slightly. Claire knelt to Lily's level, giving her a warm hug. "Of course I came back, sweetie. I brought something special for us to practice with." Lily peered into the yellow bag, her eyes widening at the sight of the colorful cards. "Are these for me?" "They're for us to use together," Claire explained, shooting a questioning look at Ethan. He stood frozen for a moment, caught between his protective instincts and his daughter's obvious joy. Finally, he sighed. "Go sit in your usual booth, Lily. I'll bring you some milk and cookies while you work." For the next hour, Claire sat with Lily, patiently working through the flashcards. Each card had a simple word on one side and a matching picture on the other. Claire had clearly put thought into selecting words that would interest Lily, things like butterfly, rainbow, and puppy. Ethan found himself watching them between tasks, noticing how Claire never showed frustration when Lily struggled. Instead, she'd find creative ways to help, like making up silly songs about the letters or drawing little pictures in the margins of their practice sheets. "Look, Daddy!" Lily called out excitedly, holding up a flashcard. "I can read this one all by myself." The card showed the word star, and Lily traced each letter with her finger as she pronounced it perfectly. Pride swelled in Ethan's chest, mixing with an uncomfortable awareness of how much Claire had helped make this moment possible. He brought over a fresh plate of cookies, lingering at their booth longer than necessary. "She couldn't do that 2 weeks ago," he admitted quietly to Claire. Claire smiled, but kept her focus on Lily. "She's a smart girl. She just needed someone to show her how the pieces fit together." As the afternoon wore on, the diner grew busier. Ethan had to focus on his work, but he could hear Lily's delighted giggles and proud exclamations floating across the room. Each time he glanced their way, he saw Claire's patient smile, her gentle encouragement, the way she celebrated every small victory. Around 5 o'clock, Claire began packing up their materials. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked Lily, who nodded enthusiastically. "Can we use the cards with the animals again?" Lily begged. "I almost got all of them right." "Of course we can," Claire promised, zipping up her bag. She looked at Ethan, who was wiping down nearby tables. "If that's okay with your dad?" Ethan straightened up, studying Claire's face. Gone was any trace of the society princess he'd accused her of being. Instead, he saw someone who showed up, day after day, asking nothing in return except the chance to help his daughter. "Yeah," he said finally. "That's okay." Claire smiled, genuine relief flooding her features. As she walked toward the door, Lily ran to give her a goodbye hug. Ethan watched them, noting how naturally Claire returned the embrace, how she whispered something that made Lily laugh. When Claire finally stepped out into the evening air, Ethan found himself following her to the door. Through the window, He watched her walk to her car, not the flashy sports car he'd expected from an heiress, but a modest sedan. She moved with grace but also purpose, like someone who knew exactly who she was and what she wanted to accomplish. The sight stirred something in him. Respect, certainly, but also a flutter of something more dangerous. He pushed the feeling away, reminding himself of all the reasons to keep his guard up. But as Lily tugged on his hand, chattering excitedly about the words she'd learned, he couldn't deny the simple truth. Claire Montgomery was proving to be nothing like he'd expected, and that terrified him more than anything. "Daddy," Lily said, breaking into his thoughts. "Miss Claire said tomorrow we can learn about dinosaurs. Did you know that's what the picture was on my favorite card?" Ethan picked up his daughter, settling her on his hip despite her growing too big for it. "Is that right?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Well, we'll have to thank her for thinking of what you like." As Claire's car disappeared around the corner, Ethan felt the familiar war inside him. Gratitude for what she was doing for Lily, admiration for her dedication, and fear of what letting her into their lives might mean. He turned back to the diner, carrying Lily with him, trying to ignore the way his heart had started beating faster at the thought of tomorrow's lesson. The autumn morning painted Miller's town square in shades of gold and amber as Claire pulled up to the curb outside Ethan's apartment building. Her heart skipped when she spotted them waiting on the steps. Lily bouncing with excitement in her purple coat. Ethan standing quietly beside her, hands tucked into the pockets of his worn leather jacket. "Miss Claire!" Lily waved frantically, nearly dropping her beloved sketchbook. "We're going on an adventure!" Claire stepped out of her modest sedan. She'd borrowed her friend's car instead of using her usual luxury vehicle, wanting Ethan to feel comfortable. "That's right, sweetie. Are you ready for books and ice cream?" "Books first, then treats," Ethan reminded gently, helping Lily into the back seat. His eyes met Claire's briefly. "Thanks for this." The drive to the library was filled with Lily's chatter about her favorite stories and characters. Claire couldn't help stealing glances at Ethan in the passenger seat, noticing how the morning light softened his usually guarded expression. The town library was a charming brick building with tall windows and ivy climbing its walls. Inside, the familiar scent of books and the quiet whisper of pages turning welcomed them. Lily immediately tugged them toward the children's section, where comfortable bean bags formed a reading circle. "Look, Daddy!" Lily pointed to a display of picture books. "Dragons!" Ethan's face lit up with a rare smile. "Why don't you pick one out? We can read it together." Claire watched as father and daughter settled into a cozy corner. Lily nestled against Ethan's side as he helped her sound out words. She'd never seen him so relaxed, his broad shoulders losing their usual tension as he pointed to illustrations and praised Lily's efforts. "You're doing so well with the bigger words," Claire said, joining them on the floor. "Remember how we practiced breaking them down?" Lily beamed. "Like Dragon and Mountain." An elderly librarian passed by, smiling warmly at their little group. "What a lovely family," she murmured, loud enough for them to hear. Claire felt her cheeks flush, but it was Ethan's reaction that surprised her. Instead of stiffening or pulling away, he simply ducked his head, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. They spent an hour exploring different books, with Lily proudly checking out 3 new ones. Outside, the autumn air had warmed, and the ice cream parlor's striped awning beckoned from across the street. "Sweet Scoops makes the best sundaes," Claire told them as they crossed. "I used to come here after school when I was little." Inside the parlor, chrome and candy-colored tiles transported them to a simpler time. Lily pressed her nose against the glass display, eyes wide at the rainbow of flavors. "Can I get sprinkles, Daddy? And chocolate sauce?" Ethan reached for his wallet, but Claire touched his arm lightly. "Please, let me. It's our celebration of your reading progress." He hesitated, pride warring with practicality. Finally, he nodded. "Thank you." They settled into a booth, Lily diving into her elaborate sundae, while Ethan and Claire shared knowing looks over her chocolate-smeared grin. Other customers glanced their way occasionally. Claire knew they made an unusual sight. The carefully dressed woman, the working-class father, and the exuberant little girl between them. But for once, she didn't care about appearances. This felt real in a way her usual social circles never did. When Ethan reached across the table to wipe ice cream from Lily's chin, his gentleness made her heart ache. "Miss Claire, try my sundae," Lily offered her spoon. "It's got magic sprinkles." Claire accepted the bite, making an exaggerated sound that sent Lily into giggles. To her delight, Ethan chuckled too, a deep, warm sound she'd never heard before. "Magic sprinkles, huh?" he said, ruffling Lily's hair. "Is that why you're so bouncy today?" The afternoon stretched like honey, sweet and slow. They walked through the town square, Lily between them, holding both their hands and swinging herself forward with complete trust. Claire caught sight of their reflection in a shop window. They looked like any other family enjoying a Saturday together. When it was time to head home, Lily climbed into the back seat, clutching her new books. The excitement of the day caught up with her quickly, and soon her quiet breathing filled the car. Claire drove carefully, stealing glances in the rearview mirror at Lily's peaceful face. Beside her, Ethan gazed out the window, but his posture was different now, relaxed, almost content. At a red light, their eyes met. No words were needed as they shared a smile, soft and genuine. In that moment, the space between them felt both vast and insignificant, a distance measured not in social status or past hurts, but in the small steps they'd taken today towards something new. The rest of the drive passed in comfortable silence, broken only by Lily's gentle snores and the whisper of tires on pavement. Claire felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the afternoon sun streaming through the windshield. For the first time since she'd walked into Miller's diner, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. The church bells rang softly across the quiet Sunday morning as Claire's car rolled into the parking lot of First Community Church. Her hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel as she spotted Ethan's weathered pickup truck already parked near the entrance. She hadn't told them she was coming, wasn't even sure what had drawn her here except the memory of Lily mentioning their Sunday morning tradition. The white clapboard building stood modest but welcoming, its steeple reaching toward the cloudless sky. Claire smoothed her simple blue dress, deliberately chosen to be appropriate without drawing attention. Still, her heart raced as she approached the wooden doors. Inside, the gentle murmur of conversation filled the warm space. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, casting rainbow patterns across worn wooden pews. Claire hesitated in the doorway until a small voice pierced the quiet. "Miss Claire!" Lily's excited shout turned heads as she bounded down the center aisle, her yellow dress bouncing with each step. Several elderly women smiled indulgently at the child's enthusiasm. Ethan stood from his usual pew, surprise evident on his face. He wore a clean white shirt with his best jeans, and Claire's breath caught at how handsome he looked in the morning light. His expression shifted from shock to something softer as Lily dragged Claire toward their seat. "You came to our church," Lily beamed, squeezing Claire's hand. "Daddy, can Miss Claire sit with us, please?" Ethan's lips curved into a small smile. "Of course, sweetheart." He moved aside to make room, and Claire slid into the pew beside him, hyper-aware of his presence. Mrs. Peterson, a silver-haired woman in the row behind them, leaned forward. "You must be the tutor Lily's been telling us about," she said warmly. "We're so glad you could join us today." Before Claire could respond, Pastor Mike approached with a gentle smile. "Welcome to First Community," he said, extending his hand. "Any friend of the Brooks family is a friend of ours." Claire felt tears prick her eyes at the simple acceptance. This was so different from the cold formality of her family's church, where status-determined seating and designer labels were as important as prayer books. The service began with familiar hymns, and Claire found herself swaying slightly to the music. Lily stood between her and Ethan, holding both their hands as she sang with childish enthusiasm, if not perfect pitch. Claire knew most of the words from her childhood, and her clear voice joined the congregation's. She felt Ethan's gaze and glanced over to find him watching her, an unreadable expression in his eyes. The morning sun caught the gold flecks in their brown depths, and for a moment, Claire forgot to sing. Pastor Mike's sermon spoke of second chances and open hearts, of finding blessings in unexpected places. Claire couldn't help but feel the words were meant for her. For them. Beside her, Ethan shifted in his seat, and their shoulders brushed. Neither moved away. During prayer time, Lily's small voice piped up, "Thank you, God, for sending Miss Claire to be our friend." The simple sincerity of it made Claire's eyes well up again. She felt Ethan's hand move closer to hers on the pew, not quite touching but present, supportive. After the service, several members of the congregation came to introduce themselves. Claire met Tommy's mother, who thanked her for helping with the children's reading group. Mr. J.R.E.U. Wilson, who owned the hardware store, praised Ethan's work ethic and told Claire she was always welcome in their community. "You fit right in, dear," Mrs. Peterson said, patting Claire's arm. "It's wonderful to see Ethan and Lily smiling so much these days." Claire caught Ethan's eye across the small crowd. His face had softened into an expression she'd never seen before, open, almost vulnerable. When Lily tugged on his sleeve, announcing she was hungry, he laughed quietly. "Time to head home," he said, looking at Claire. Would you like to join us for Sunday lunch? It's nothing fancy, just sandwiches and soup, but—" "I'd love to," Claire answered quickly, her heart lifting at the invitation. They made their way out of the church, Lily skipping ahead to chat with her friends. At the steps, Ethan hesitated, then offered Claire his arm in an old-fashioned gesture that touched her deeply. She slipped her hand into the crook of his elbow, feeling the strength in his muscles through the clean cotton of his shirt. The morning air was crisp with autumn's promise as they walked toward the parking lot. Leaves crunched under their feet, and Claire felt something shift between them, a spark of possibility, of future mornings just like this one. Ethan's arm was warm under her hand, and when he helped her step over a puddle, his touch lingered. Lily ran back to them, her face glowing. "Can Miss Claire ride with us, Daddy? Please?" Ethan looked down at Claire, still holding her arm. "Would you like that? You could leave your car here, and I'll bring you back after lunch." Claire nodded, not trusting her voice. The three of them walked to Ethan's truck, and for the first time since she'd met them, Claire felt like she truly belonged. When Ethan helped her into the passenger seat, their eyes met, and that spark flared brighter. His hand squeezed hers briefly before he closed the door, and Claire knew that something had changed that morning. Something wonderful and fragile and full of hope. "Miss Claire," Lily called from the back seat, "can we sing that song from church again?" As Ethan started the engine, Claire turned to smile at Lily, catching the soft look in Ethan's eyes as he watched them both in the rearview mirror. The morning sun streamed through the windshield, warming them all with its gentle promise of new beginnings. The autumn air crackled with excitement as strings of twinkling lights crisscrossed above Main Street. The annual Harvest Festival had transformed into something bigger this year, a fundraiser for single parents, spearheaded by none other than Claire Montgomery. Paper lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, casting warm glows across faces both familiar and new. Tables lined the blocked-off street, laden with home-baked goods and handmade crafts. The scent of apple cider and cinnamon wafted through the air, mixing with the earthy smell of fallen leaves. Claire stood near the makeshift stage, clipboard in hand, her casual jeans and sweater, a far cry from her usual charity gala attire. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her cheeks were flushed from running back and forth between volunteers. She looked more at home here than she ever had at her father's fancy events. "Need any help with those boxes?" Ethan's voice startled her. He stood there in his best flannel shirt, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. "Oh, yes, thank you." Claire pointed to a stack of donation boxes. "Those need to go near the registration table." As they worked side by side, their shoulders occasionally brushing, Claire couldn't help but notice how natural it felt. The past 2 weeks had softened something between them. Their daily tutoring sessions with Lily had become warm gatherings filled with laughter and small, precious moments. The street slowly filled with townspeople. Mrs. Peterson from the bakery arranged her famous pies on a checkered tablecloth. Mr. Jenkins from the hardware store set up a ring toss game. Children darted between adults' legs, their excited squeals mixing with the gentle strumming of acoustic guitars from the local band. Lily bounced around in a pretty dress that Claire had helped her pick out, proudly showing off her reading skills to anyone who would listen. "I can read chapter books now," she announced to passing neighbors, who smiled knowingly at Claire. As dusk approached, Mayor Thompson took to the stage. The crowd gathered closer, their conversations hushing to murmurs. Claire's heart began to race. This was the moment she'd been planning for weeks. "Ladies and gentlemen," the mayor began, his voice carrying across the street. "Tonight we're here to support our community's single parents, and we have a very special announcement from Claire Montgomery." Claire stepped onto the stage, her hands trembling slightly as she took the microphone. Her eyes found Ethan in the crowd, standing with Lily perched on his shoulders. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "This community has shown me what real family means. You've welcomed me with open arms, taught me about genuine kindness, and helped me understand what truly matters in life." She paused, taking a deep breath. "That's why I'm honored to announce the establishment of the Sarah Brooks Memorial Scholarship Fund." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Ethan's face froze, his hands tightening protectively around Lily's legs. "Sarah Brooks was a dedicated mother who worked tirelessly for her family," Claire continued, her voice thick with emotion. "This scholarship will provide educational support for single parents and their children, ensuring that no parent has to choose between working extra shifts and spending time with their kids." The crowd erupted in applause. Several people wiped tears from their eyes, and Mrs. Peterson reached out to squeeze Ethan's arm. Lily clapped excitedly, though she didn't fully understand the significance of the moment. Claire stepped down from the stage, her heart pounding as she approached Ethan. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Why?" he whispered hoarsely. "Because she deserved better," Claire replied softly. "And because other parents deserve a chance." Ethan gently lifted Lily from his shoulders and set her down. "Hey, sweetie, why don't you go help Mrs. Peterson serve some pie?" As Lily skipped away, Ethan turned back to Claire. The streetlights caught the moisture in his eyes. "I've been so wrong about you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I saw your family's wealth and assumed you were just like them. But you're nothing like them, are you?" Claire shook her head, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The festivities continued around them, but they stood in their own quiet bubble. The band had started playing again, a slow melody that floated through the cooling night air. Above them, stars began to peek through the darkening sky, and the paper lanterns swayed gently in the breeze. "Walk with me," Ethan asked, offering his hand. They strolled to the edge of the crowd, where the string lights ended and the natural starlight took over. The music faded to a soft background melody. "Claire," Ethan said, turning to face her. His voice was tender, vulnerable in a way she'd never heard before. "You've changed everything. The way you are with Lily, how you've helped her grow, and how you've helped me see past my own anger and pride." He reached up, gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His touch sent shivers down her spine. "I want you in our lives," he whispered. "Not just as Lily's tutor, but as—" He trailed off, searching her eyes. Claire's heart thundered in her chest as Ethan slowly leaned forward. His lips met hers in a tender kiss, soft and sweet, full of promise and new beginnings. The nearby paper lanterns cast a warm glow around them, and somewhere in the distance, Lily's laughter mingled with the music and chatter of the festival. When they finally pulled apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "Stay," he whispered. "Be part of our family." The kitchen in Ethan's small apartment filled with warmth as Claire stirred a pot of homemade mac and cheese. Steam rose from the bubbling pasta, carrying the rich aroma of melted butter and sharp cheddar through the cozy space. Lily perched on a wooden stool at the counter, her legs swinging as she worked on her spelling homework. "How do you spell beautiful, Miss Claire?" Lily asked, her pencil hovering over her notebook. Claire wiped her hands on her simple cotton apron, so different from the designer clothes hanging untouched in her closet at home. "Sound it out with me, sweetie." "B-E-A." "Beautiful," Lily finished with a giggle. From the living room, Ethan looked up from where he was fixing a wobbly table leg. His eyes met Claire's, and a soft smile crossed his face. These quiet evening moments had become their new normal over the past week, as natural as breathing. "Something smells good," he said, setting down his tools and joining them in the kitchen. His shoulder brushed against Claire's as he reached past her for a glass, sending a pleasant shiver down her spine. "Mac and cheese," Lily announced proudly. "Miss Claire's teaching me how to cook, too." "Is she now?" Ethan's eyes crinkled at the corners. "Should I be worried about you two taking over my kitchen?" Claire laughed, stirring the creamy sauce. "Your kitchen is safe. We're just adding to its charm." The apartment might have been modest, mismatched furniture, worn carpet, walls that needed fresh paint, but it held more love than any room in her father's mansion. Here, crayon drawings decorated the fridge, and every scratch on the coffee table told a story. While Claire drained the pasta, Lily cleared her homework from the counter. Ethan set out 3 plates, the everyday dishes with tiny chips along the edges that somehow made them perfect. They moved around each other with an ease that felt like they'd been doing this dance for years, not days. "Can we have story time after dinner?" Lily asked, as she helped carry cups to the table. "Only if you eat all your vegetables," Ethan replied, pointing to the steamed broccoli Claire had prepared. "Even the green trees?" "Especially the green trees," Claire winked. "They help you grow tall and strong." They settled around the small kitchen table, knees touching in the tight space. Claire watched as Ethan bowed his head, leading them in a quiet prayer of thanks. The simple ritual touched her heart every time. Between bites, Lily chatted about her day at school, how she'd helped a new student find the library, and how her reading was getting better thanks to Claire's tutoring. Pride swelled in Claire's chest as Ethan mentioned how Lily's teacher had noticed the improvement too. "It's all because of you," he said softly to Claire when Lily bounced off to grab her latest drawing from her room. Claire shook her head. "It's all Lily. She just needed someone to believe in her." "Like you believed in us?" His voice was tender, vulnerable. Before Claire could respond, Lily rushed back with her artwork. A crayon masterpiece, showing 3 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sundae. "That's us," she declared. "See? Daddy's the tallest, and Miss Claire has pretty yellow hair, and that's me in the middle." Claire's heart melted as Ethan carefully taped the drawing to the fridge, right at eye level. It joined a growing collection of similar pictures, their little family captured in Lily's innocent strokes. After dinner, they fell into their usual routine. Lily helped load the dishwasher while Claire wiped down the counters. Ethan packed tomorrow's lunch for Lily, adding little notes like he always did. The domesticity of it all filled Claire with a contentment she'd never known possible. In the living room, they gathered on the worn couch for homework time. Claire sat cross-legged, helping Lily with her reading while Ethan caught up on some paperwork. The lamp cast a warm glow over them all, and somewhere in the building, a neighbor's radio played soft music. "The little engine that could," Lily read slowly but surely, "puffed up the mountain." Her finger traced each word carefully. "That's perfect." Claire squeezed her shoulder. "You're reading so well." Ethan set aside his papers, watching them with gentle eyes. "Who would have thought my girl would become such a bookworm?" "I'm going to read all the books," Lily declared with conviction. "Just like Miss Claire." Later, as they finished the last of Lily's assignments, the little girl yawned widely. "Time for bed, sweetheart," Ethan said, scooping her up. "Can Miss Claire help tuck me in?" Claire's heart swelled as Ethan nodded. Together, they went through Lily's bedtime routine, picking out pajamas, brushing teeth, saying prayers. When Lily was finally settled under her butterfly covers, she grabbed both their hands. "I love you, Daddy," she murmured sleepily. "Love you too, Miss Claire." Back in the living room, Claire and Ethan cleared away homework papers and straightened cushions. The comfortable silence between them spoke volumes about how far they'd come from those first awkward meetings at the diner. "Stay for coffee?" Ethan asked, already reaching for the cups he knew she liked. Claire nodded, sinking into her favorite spot on the couch. She watched as he moved around the kitchen, his movements sure and familiar. When he joined her, passing over a steaming mug, their fingers brushed deliberately. "You know," he said quietly, "I never thought I'd have this again. After Sarah, I was just trying to survive, to be enough for Lily." Claire cradled her coffee, understanding the weight of his words. "And now? Now?" He smiled, that rare, full smile that made his eyes light up. "Now I'm starting to remember what it feels like to live." Laughter bubbled up between them as they shared stories from their days. The funny things Lily said, the small victories and silly moments. The apartment filled with the sound of their joy, echoing off walls that had known too much silence. Claire leaned back against the cushions, watching Ethan gesture animatedly as he described an incident at the diner. Everything about this moment felt right. The slightly crooked pictures on the walls, the faint scent of mac and cheese still lingering in the air, the way Ethan's hand rested casually near hers on the couch. This was where she belonged. Not in her father's cold mansion or at fancy charity galas, but here in this humble apartment with its creaky floors and abundance of love. For the first time in her life, Claire felt completely, utterly at home. The evening crowd at Miller's diner had thinned to just a few regulars when the glass door burst open with such force that the bell above it jangled violently. Harold Montgomery, Claire's father, stormed in wearing an expensive charcoal suit that seemed to radiate cold authority. His face was flushed with anger as his eyes scanned the homey interior. Claire, who had been helping Lily with her reading at their usual booth, felt her blood run cold. "Dad?" she whispered, half rising from her seat. "So, this is where you've been hiding," Harold's voice boomed through the diner. Several customers turned to stare. "Consorting with? With the help?" His lip curled as he glanced at Ethan, who was emerging from the kitchen, still wearing his dishwashing apron. "Dad, please," Claire said, stepping forward. Her hands trembled, but her voice remained steady. "This isn't the place." "Oh, I think this is exactly the place." Harold's expensive leather shoes clicked against the linoleum as he advanced. "Time to end this little charity project of yours." Ethan moved closer to Lily, who had shrunk back in the booth, her eyes wide with fear. "Sir, if you have something to say to me—" "Oh, I have plenty to say to you." Harold's face reddened further. "Did you think nobody would notice? A dishwasher cozying up to one of the wealthiest heiresses in the state?" He turned to address the watching customers. "This man here, he's got quite a scheme going. Found himself a rich girl to manipulate." "That's not true," Claire protested, but her father spoke over her. "I've done my research on you, Brooks. Your wife worked for us, didn't she? And now you're using my daughter to what, get revenge? Score a big payday?" Ethan's face had gone pale, but his jaw was set. "You don't know anything about me or my family." "I know enough." Harold pulled out his phone. "One call, and you'll never work in this town again. Not just here, anywhere. And trust me, with a young daughter to support, you can't afford that." The diner had gone completely silent. Even the cook had stopped working to watch through the service window. Lily began to cry softly, and Claire rushed to comfort her. But Ethan held up his hand. "Don't," he said quietly. "Please, Claire, just don't." "Ethan, no," Claire pleaded. "Don't let him do this. What we have is real." Harold laughed coldly. "Real? Wake up, Claire. You're slumming it for a taste of small-town life. Playing house with a dishwasher and his kid? This isn't some Hallmark movie." "You're wrong," Claire said, her voice breaking. "I love them. Both of them." "Love?" Harold scoffed. "You don't know the first thing about real life, about struggle, about responsibility." He turned to Ethan. "And you. You should be ashamed, letting my daughter throw away her future on some fantasy." Ethan stood very still, his face a mask of pain and pride. "Mr. Montgomery," he said carefully, "I never asked Claire for anything. Never wanted her money." "No?" Harold pulled out a newspaper clipping. "Then what's this about a scholarship fund in your wife's name? Quite convenient timing, wouldn't you say?" Claire gasped. "Dad, I set that up. Ethan didn't even know." "Of course he knew. He's been playing you from the start." Harold's voice dripped with contempt. "Taking advantage of your naive good heart, just like all the others." Ethan's shoulders sagged slightly. He looked at Claire, and the defeat in his eyes made her heart crack. Maybe your father's right." "No," Claire whispered. "Ethan, please." "I am just a dishwasher," Ethan continued, his voice rough. "And you deserve better than this life. Better than me." He walked to the booth and gently lifted Lily, who was still crying. "I'm sorry, Claire, I can't do this anymore." "Ethan, wait!" Claire reached for him, but he stepped back. "Thank you for everything you've done for Lily," he said formally. "But it's better if we don't see each other again." Harold smiled triumphantly. "Smart man. Come along, Claire." But Claire couldn't move. She stood frozen, as Ethan carried Lily toward the diner's back exit. The little girl reached over his shoulder, calling out, "Best friend! Don't leave!" Claire's legs finally unlocked, and she ran outside to her car, ignoring her father's calls. Through the windshield, she watched Ethan walk across the parking lot, Lily's face buried in his shoulder. Tears streamed down Claire's cheeks as she gripped the steering wheel, her world crumbling around her. The last thing she saw before her vision blurred completely was Ethan's figure disappearing into the darkness, his steps heavy but determined, carrying both his daughter and his broken heart away from the love he thought he didn't deserve. The Montgomery mansion loomed like a beautiful prison against the darkening sky. Inside, Claire sat curled up in the window seat of her bedroom, still wearing the same clothes from the previous day. The silk curtains hung heavily around her, creating a cocoon that felt more suffocating than comforting. Her phone lay silent beside her, its screen dark and empty of the messages she desperately hoped to receive. Outside, perfect rows of manicured rosebushes stretched toward the garden walls, but their beauty felt hollow now. Everything in this world of wealth and privilege seemed to mock her with its pristine emptiness. A servant's gentle knock went unanswered as a tray of untouched dinner grew cold in the hallway. Claire pressed her forehead against the cool window glass, watching her breath create small clouds of fog. "I should have told him sooner," she whispered to herself, the words catching in her throat. "I should have been honest from the start." Across town, in a modest apartment complex, Ethan Brooks moved through his evening routine like a man underwater. Every motion felt slow and heavy as he pulled back Lily's favorite unicorn-printed bedspread. The small bedroom was cluttered with stuffed animals and crayon drawings, several new ones, featuring a tall figure with long brown hair standing next to Lily and her daddy. "Time for bed, sweetheart," Ethan said, his voice rough around the edges. He'd barely spoken all day, going through the motions at work, trying to ignore the empty seat at the diner counter where Claire usually Saturday. Lily clutched her worn teddy bear closer, her small face pinched with worry. She was wearing the pajamas Claire had given her, soft pink ones with little stars all over them. "Daddy?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. "Why isn't Miss Claire coming to read with me tonight?" The question hit Ethan like a physical blow. He sat heavily on the edge of her bed, the springs creaking under his weight. The orange glow from her nightlight cast shadows across his tired face as he struggled to find the right words. "Sometimes," he began, then stopped, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard decisions, honey." "But she's my best friend," Lily protested, her lower lip trembling. "She promised to help me with my reading. We were going to finish Charlotte's Web tomorrow." Ethan's chest tightened painfully. He remembered how Claire had done all the different character voices, making Lily giggle with delight. How she'd stayed late, helping Lily sound out the harder words with endless patience. How she'd looked at him over Lily's head with those warm brown eyes full of... He cut off that thought sharply. "I know, sweetheart. I know she did. Did I do something wrong?" Lily's voice wavered dangerously close to tears. "No, baby." Ethan gathered his daughter close, breathing in the sweet smell of her strawberry shampoo. "You didn't do anything wrong. This is grown-up stuff, okay? Sometimes things just don't work out the way we want them to." "But why?" Lily persisted, pulling back to look at him with those big eyes that reminded him so much of her mother. "Miss Claire makes you smile, Daddy. You don't smile much anymore, but you do when she's here." Ethan felt his throat close up. He couldn't explain how Claire's father had stormed into the diner, threatening not just his job but his dignity. Couldn't tell his little girl how the words "gold digger" and "charity case" had been thrown around like weapons. Couldn't admit how his own pride and fear had made him push away the first person since Sarah's death who had made him feel whole again. "I just want us to be happy," Lily whispered, snuggling back against his chest. "We are happy," Ethan said automatically, but the words rang hollow even to his own ears. "It's just you and me, like always. We're okay." He tucked her in, making sure her teddy bear was properly situated under the covers. "Time for prayers," he reminded her softly, their nightly ritual unchanged despite the ache in his chest. Lily folded her small hands and closed her eyes. Ethan started to rise, preparing to leave her to her private conversation with God, as he usually did. But her quiet words stopped him in his tracks. "Dear God," Lily whispered, "please let Miss Claire be my forever family. She makes Daddy happy, and she helps me read, and she gives the best hugs besides Daddy. And I think maybe you sent her to us because you knew we were lonely. So please, don't let her go away forever. Amen." Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, his hand gripping the frame so hard his knuckles turned white. His daughter's simple prayer pierced straight through the walls he'd built around his heart. He thought of Claire's face when he'd told her to leave, the hurt and confusion in her eyes, the way she'd reached for him one last time before he turned away. He'd been so focused on protecting Lily from more loss that he hadn't seen how much Claire had already become part of their family. Hadn't wanted to admit how much he needed her too. Lily's breathing slowly evened out into the peaceful rhythm of sleep, but Ethan remained in the doorway, watching the gentle rise and fall of her chest. The apartment felt emptier than ever, haunted by the ghost of Claire's laughter, the echo of her voice reading stories, the phantom warmth of her presence at their small kitchen table. In her mansion across town, Claire finally moved from her window seat. Her legs stiff from sitting so long, she walked to her closet and pulled out the cardigan she'd worn the first night at the diner, the night Lily had declared her a best friend. It still smelled faintly of French fries and coffee, of that simple world where she'd found something real. She hugged the cardigan to her chest, remembering Lily's arms around her waist, Ethan's rare but beautiful smile, the way his hand had felt holding hers under the stars after the fundraiser. For the first time in her life, she'd known exactly where she belonged, and now it was gone. Both Claire and Ethan lay awake in their separate beds that night, staring at their respective ceilings, their hearts heavy with the weight of things left unsaid. Between them, Lily slept peacefully, her innocent prayer hanging in the air like a bridge waiting to be crossed. The morning sun filtered through the towering glass windows of Montgomery Hotel's headquarters, casting long shadows across the pristine marble floors. Claire's heels clicked purposefully as she strode through the lobby, her chin held high despite the tears she'd shed all night. Several employees stopped to stare. They rarely saw the boss's daughter here, and never with such fierce determination in her eyes. Her father's secretary jumped up as Claire approached. "Miss Montgomery, you don't have an appointment." "He'll see me now," Claire said firmly, pushing past her and throwing open the heavy oak doors to her father's corner office. Richard Montgomery looked up from his desk, his steel-gray hair perfectly coiffed, his expensive suit without a wrinkle. For a moment, surprise flickered across his face before settling into his usual stern expression. "Claire, what is the meaning of this interruption?" "The meaning?" Claire's voice shook slightly, but she pressed on. "The meaning is that I'm done, Dad. Done with your controlling ways, done with your threats, done with watching you hurt good people just because they don't fit into your perfect world." Her father's jaw tightened. He stood slowly, towering behind his massive mahogany desk. "If this is about that dishwasher—" "His name is Ethan," Claire cut in, her hands balling into fists. "And yes, this is partly about him and his daughter Lily, but it's about so much more than that. It's about who I am and who I want to be." "Who you want to be," Richard scoffed. "You're a Montgomery. I've given you everything. The best schools, the finest clothes, a position in this company, everything except the freedom to choose my own path." Claire's voice rose, and she welcomed the strength in it. "Everything except the right to love, who I want to love." Her father's face reddened. "Love? You don't know the first thing about love. That man is using you, Claire. He sees dollar signs when he looks at you." Claire laughed bitterly. "Is that what you think? Ethan didn't even know who I was when we met. He pushed me away when he found out. The only person seeing dollar signs here is you, Dad. You've turned everything into a transaction, even your own daughter's happiness." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope, tossing it onto his desk. "My resignation. Effective immediately." Richard stared at the envelope as if it might bite him. "Don't be ridiculous. You can't resign." "I already have." Claire straightened her shoulders. "I'm starting my own foundation. One that will help working families, single parents, people who need a chance, not a handout." "With what money?" Her father's voice turned cold. "Your trust fund. Is mine? Claire finished. Grandma made sure of that when she set it up. You can't touch it. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Richard Montgomery's face. He sank back into his chair, looking suddenly older. Claire, you're making a terrible mistake. These people, they're not like us. That's right, Claire said softly. They're better. They know what really matters in life. Ethan works 2 jobs to give his daughter a good life. He reads to her every night, no matter how tired he island. He teaches her kindness and strength and dignity, even when people like you try to take those things away. She stepped closer to the desk, planting her palms on its smooth surface and leaning forward. You want to know what real love looks like, Dad? It's not in this office. It's not in our empty mansion. It's in a tiny apartment where a father and daughter make room in their hearts for a stranger, even though they've been hurt before. You're throwing away everything we've built, her father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. No, Claire replied. I'm building something new, something that matters. She straightened up, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. I love you, Dad. I always will. But I won't let you control me anymore. I won't let you hurt the people I care about. Richard Montgomery stood again, his face a mask of anger and confusion. If you walk out that door... You'll what? Claire asked quietly. Disown me? Cut me off? Go ahead. I'd rather have nothing with people who have everything in their hearts than everything with people who have nothing in theirs. She turned toward the door, her steps steady despite the trembling in her chest. Behind her, she heard her father call out, Claire! She paused, her hand on the doorknob, but didn't turn around. You'll regret this, he said, his voice rough with emotion. When he breaks your heart, when you see what life is really like down there, you'll come crawling back. Claire shook her head slowly. No, Dad. The only thing I regret is not standing up to you sooner. With those words, she pulled open the door and walked out of her father's office. The secretary stared as Claire passed, and whispers followed her through the lobby. But Claire didn't care anymore. Her heart was heavy with the weight of what she'd done, but her steps were light with the freedom of her choice. As the glass doors of Montgomery hotels closed behind her, Claire took a deep breath of the crisp morning air. For the first time in her life, she wasn't Richard Montgomery's perfect daughter anymore. She was just Claire, and that was exactly who she wanted to be. The evening shadows crept across the small apartment as Ethan finished washing the dinner dishes. The familiar routine felt empty now, each movement mechanical and lifeless. Through the kitchen window, he could see the first stars appearing in the dusky sky, reminding him of that precious moment under the stars with Claire at the fundraiser. His heart ached at the memory. Daddy, look what I made! Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She stood in the doorway of the kitchen, holding up a piece of paper with colorful crayon marks spread across it. Ethan dried his hands on a dish towel and knelt beside his daughter. What's this, sweetheart? Lily held the drawing close to her chest for a moment, suddenly shy. It's our family, she whispered, then turned the paper around. The sight knocked the breath from his lungs. There, drawn in the beautiful, messy way of childhood, were 3 stick figures holding hands. The smallest wore a pink dress, clearly Lily. The tallest figure wore what looked like his work uniform, complete with an awkwardly drawn apron. And between them, a figure with long brown hair and a big smile wore a blue dress, unmistakably Claire. See? Lily pointed to each figure. That's you, and that's me, and that's Miss Claire. Her finger lingered on Claire's image. She makes us happy, doesn't she, Daddy? Ethan's throat tightened. He stared at the simple drawing, seeing it through his daughter's innocent eyes. The 3 figures smiled up at him, joined together in crayon harmony, showing him what he'd been too proud to see. I miss her, Lily added softly, hugging the drawing to her chest again. She always smells like flowers and gives the best hugs. And she never gets mad when I mess up reading. Her lower lip trembled slightly. Why did she stop coming, Daddy? Did I do something wrong? No, baby. Ethan pulled her into his arms, his heart breaking. You didn't do anything wrong. Daddy made a mistake. Can you fix it? Lily's voice was muffled against his shoulder. Like when you fixed my bike? Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his decisions pressing down on him. He'd let his hurt pride and old wounds dictate his actions. He'd pushed away someone who had shown nothing but genuine care for his daughter. Someone who had brightened their lives with her presence. "I need to think about some things, sweetie," he said gently. "Why don't you get ready for bed? I'll be there in a minute to tuck you in." After Lily disappeared down the hallway, Ethan sat heavily on the couch, still holding her drawing. The paper trembled in his hands as memories flooded his mind. Claire's patient smile as she helped Lily sound out difficult words, her genuine laugh during their park outings, the way she looked at him like he was worth something more than his job title. He'd been so wrong about her. She wasn't her father. She wasn't the cold world of privilege he'd blamed for Sarah's death. Claire was warmth and light and genuine love. Everything his daughter needed. Everything he needed, but had been too scared to accept. Ethan slid from the couch onto his knees, still clutching Lily's drawing. For the first time since Sarah's death, he felt truly lost. "Lord," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion, "I've been such a fool. I let my pride and fear stand in the way of the blessing you sent us. I've hurt my daughter, and I've hurt a good woman who only wanted to love us." Tears fell onto the drawing, making the crayon colors blur slightly. "Please give me the courage to make this right. Show me how to be the man you want me to be, the father Lily deserves, and maybe the man Claire saw in me." The prayer settled in his heart like a warm embrace, bringing clarity where there had been confusion. He knew what he had to do. After tucking Lily in and kissing her forehead, Ethan stood in the doorway watching her peaceful face in the soft glow of her nightlight. "I love you, sweetheart," he whispered. "Love you too, Daddy," she murmured sleepily. "Can you tell Miss Claire I love her too?" His heart clenched. "I will, baby. I promise." Back in the living room, Ethan grabbed his keys and jacket. He called Mrs. Jensen from next door, who had always helped watch Lily in emergencies. After explaining the situation, the kind elderly woman came right over. As he headed for the door, Ethan carefully folded Lily's drawing and placed it in his jacket pocket close to his heart. The paper felt like a talisman of hope, a child's simple wisdom showing him the way forward. The night air was crisp as he stepped outside, stars now fully visible in the clear sky. Ethan took a deep breath, drawing strength from the prayer still echoing in his soul. He knew finding Claire wouldn't be easy. She could be anywhere in town, or worse, back at that massive mansion with her father. But he had to try. He owed it to Lily, to Claire, and to himself to fight for this chance at happiness. With determined steps, he walked to his truck, the drawing in his pocket reminding him with every movement what truly mattered, not pride, not the past, but love. The morning sun streamed through Miller's Diner's wide windows, casting warm rectangles of light across the checkered floor. The usual breakfast crowd had thinned out, leaving behind the lingering scent of coffee and maple syrup. A few regulars remained scattered among the booths, nursing their cups and sharing quiet conversations. Ethan Brooks stood behind the counter, his hands trembling slightly as he wiped the same spot for the 10th time. He had come in early, unable to sleep after his revelation the night before. His work uniform was crisp and freshly pressed, a small detail that hadn't escaped the notice of his coworkers, who exchanged knowing glances. "Daddy, you're making that spot too shiny," Lily giggled from her usual place at the counter. She sat swinging her legs, her backpack ready for school beside her, a half-eaten plate of pancakes in front of her. Her small fingers traced the edges of a folded paper, the family drawing she'd made, now creased from being carried everywhere. "Just making sure it's perfect, sweetie," Ethan replied, his voice rougher than usual. His eyes kept darting to the diner's entrance, watching, waiting. The morning light caught the silver handles of the glass doors, making them sparkle like hope itself. The bell above the door chimed, and Ethan's heart leaped into his throat. But it was just Mrs. Peterson coming in for her usual morning tea. She gave him a warm smile and a knowing wink as she settled into her regular booth. The minutes ticked by on the old clock above the grill, each one feeling longer than the last. Lily hummed softly to herself, coloring in her notebook, the same one Claire had given her for practicing letters. The sight of it made Ethan's chest tighten with regret and determination. At precisely 9:15, the bell chimed again, This time, when Ethan looked up, his breath caught in his throat. Claire stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the morning light. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair loose around her shoulders, and carried a leather portfolio stuffed with papers. She looked different somehow, stronger, more certain of herself. The hesitation that had often marked her movements was gone. The diner fell silent. Even the sizzle of the grill seemed to quiet down as Claire's eyes met Ethan's across the room. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heels clicking softly on the tile floor. "Claire!" Lily's excited voice broke the spell. She scrambled off her stool, but Ethan gently caught her shoulder. "Wait, sweetheart," he whispered. "Let me do this first." Ethan walked around the counter, his steps steady despite his racing heart. He could feel every eye in the diner on him. Tommy at the grill, Sarah with her order pad frozen mid-right, the regular customers who had watched this story unfold over the past months. Claire stopped in the middle of the diner, clutching her portfolio like a shield. The morning light caught the tears gathering in her eyes, making them shine like stars. "Claire," Ethan began, his voice carrying in the quiet diner. "I've been a fool." He took another step closer, his hands open at his sides. "I let pride and fear blind me. I was so scared of being hurt, of Lily being hurt, that I couldn't see what was right in front of me." Claire's lips trembled, but she remained silent, waiting. "You came into our lives like a miracle," Ethan continued, his voice growing stronger. "You showed us love without conditions, gave without expecting anything in return. You saw us, really saw us, when the rest of the world looked right through us." He glanced back at Lily, who watched with wide, hopeful eyes. "You became my daughter's best friend, just like she said that very first day, and somewhere along the way, without me even realizing it, you became the best friend of my heart too." Taking another step closer, Ethan's voice cracked with emotion. "I'm sorry I pushed you away. I'm sorry I let fear win. Because the truth is, Claire Montgomery, I love you. I love your gentle heart, your quiet strength, your beautiful spirit. I love how you color with Lily for hours, how you laugh at my terrible jokes, how you fight for what's right even when it costs you everything." Tears were flowing freely down Claire's cheeks now. The portfolio slipped from her fingers, papers scattering across the floor, but she didn't seem to notice. "I don't care about your last name or your family's money," Ethan declared. "I care about you, just you. And if you can forgive me, if you can give me another chance, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt how much you're loved." A sob escaped Claire's throat as she launched herself forward. Ethan caught her in his arms, holding her tight as she buried her face in his shoulder. "I love you too," she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear. "So much." Then she pulled back slightly, cupping his face in her hands. "And there's nothing to forgive. We're both learning, both growing. Together." Ethan's hand came up to brush away her tears, his touch gentle as a prayer. Then, in front of everyone, the morning regulars, his co-workers, and their precious daughter, he kissed her. It was a kiss of promise, of healing, of new beginnings. The diner erupted in applause and cheers. Lily darted forward, wrapping her arms around both their legs. "Does this mean we're a real family now?" she asked, her face glowing with joy. Claire knelt down, pulling Lily into a proper hug. "We already were, sweetheart. We already were." "My best friend," Lily whispered. And this time, the words held a deeper meaning, a promise of forever. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, wrapping the three of them in its warm embrace as the diner's applause continued around them. In that moment, in Miller's diner where their story had begun, love triumphed over fear, hope over doubt, and family over everything else. Golden autumn sunlight dappled the park's grass as Claire watched Lily chase a bright red ball across the open field. The little girl's laughter rang out clear and sweet, making Claire's heart swell with joy. These past few weeks had brought more happiness than she'd ever known in her privileged life at the mansion. "Catch it, Daddy!" Lily called out, tossing the ball toward Ethan. He caught it easily, his strong hands gentle as they plucked it from the air. The promotion to assistant manager at Miller's diner had eased some of the exhaustion from his face, though he still worked hard. But now there was a lightness to his movements, a contentment that showed in his ready smile. Claire smoothed the checkered blanket beneath her, breathing in the crisp autumn air. Her new community foundation office had opened last week, a modest space downtown where she could help other families like Ethan's. The work filled her with purpose, so different from the hollow charity galas of her past. "Miss Claire!" Lily bounded over, her cheeks flushed pink from running. "Watch me throw really far." She wound up dramatically, tongue poking out in concentration, and launched the ball. It wobbled through the air, landing a few feet away. "Did you see? Did you see how far it went?" "That was amazing," Claire clapped, sharing a warm glance with Ethan. "You're getting so strong." "Just like my daddy," Lily declared proudly, then ran to retrieve the ball. Ethan settled onto the blanket beside Claire, their shoulders touching. "She's doing so well in school now," he said softly. "Her teacher says she's reading above grade level. That's thanks to you." Claire leaned into him slightly. "She just needed someone to believe in her, like her daddy does." He caught her hand, his calloused fingers intertwining with hers. The simple gesture still sent butterflies through her stomach. "You believed in both of us," he murmured. "Here!" Lily flopped down between them, slightly out of breath. "Can we have snacks now? I'm starving." Claire laughed, reaching for the picnic basket. "I packed your favorite peanut butter and banana sandwiches." She handed one to Lily, who immediately took an enormous bite. The three of them sat contentedly in the warm afternoon light, sharing sandwiches and apple slices. Lily regaled them with stories about her school friends and the picture book she was writing about a brave princess who worked in a diner. Claire noticed Ethan growing quieter, almost nervous, fidgeting with something in his pocket. "Hey, sweetheart," he said to Lily, "remember that special thing we talked about?" Lily's eyes lit up. She bounced to her feet, practically vibrating with excitement. "Can we do it now? Please?" "Do what?" Claire asked, looking between them curiously. Ethan took a deep breath, shifting to face her directly. His eyes were full of emotion as he reached for her hand. "Claire Montgomery, you walked into our lives that night at the diner and changed everything. You showed me that love isn't about where someone comes from, but what's in their heart." Claire's breath caught as he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a simple silver ring with a single modest diamond that caught the sunlight. "It's not fancy," he said quietly. "Not like what you're probably used to. But it comes with a promise of a future together, the three of us, as a real family. If you want that too." "Yes!" Lily burst out before Claire could speak. "Say yes! Please be my forever family." Tears spilled down Claire's cheeks as she looked at the ring, then at Ethan's hopeful face, then at Lily's eager expression. This was everything she'd ever wanted. Not the wealth or status her father had pushed on her, but real love, a true family. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he was pulling her close, kissing her tenderly as Lily cheered and threw her arms around them both. When they finally separated, Claire wiped her eyes, laughing as Lily examined the ring with wonder. "It's beautiful," she said honestly. "It's perfect." The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in brilliant shades of pink and gold. They packed up their picnic supplies, Lily skipping ahead of them down the path toward home. Claire's heart felt so full it might burst as Ethan took her left hand, the new ring glinting in the fading light. Lily ran back to grab Claire's other hand, completing their circle. Together, they walked toward home, their shadows stretching long behind them. Lily hummed a tune from Sunday school, swinging their joined hands. Claire caught Ethan's eye over their daughter's head and saw all her joy reflected there. This was where she belonged. Not in a cold mansion full of empty luxury, but here, holding hands with the people she loved most in the world, walking into their shared future together. The morning sun painted the park in gentle spring colors, casting long shadows through the awakening trees. Fresh dew sparkled on the grass like scattered diamonds, and the air carried the sweet scent of blooming flowers. On a weathered wooden bench near the playground, Ethan, Claire, and Lily sat together, sharing a well-worn copy of The Little Prince. Claire held the book open on her lap while Lily snuggled between her and Ethan. The little girl's finger traced each word as Claire read aloud, her voice soft and melodious in the quiet morning. Ethan's arm rested comfortably along the back of the bench, his hand occasionally brushing Claire's shoulder. "What makes the desert beautiful," said the little prince, "is that somewhere it hides a well." Claire read, her voice carrying the wonder of the words. Lily's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Like how we found each other?" she asked, looking up at Claire with those innocent brown eyes that never failed to melt her heart. "Exactly like that, sweetheart," Claire replied, giving her a gentle squeeze. The morning light caught the simple silver ring on Claire's finger. Ethan's promise of their future together. It wasn't the flashy diamond her father would have expected her to wear, but to Claire it held more value than all the jewels in her family's vault. A light breeze rustled through the pages, carrying the distant sounds of birds welcoming the spring day. Other families had begun to fill the park, their children's laughter creating a joyful symphony, but here on their bench, the three of them existed in their own perfect bubble of contentment. "Can we read the part about the fox again?" Lily asked, her small hands already flipping back through the pages. "The part about being tamed?" Claire exchanged a knowing look with Ethan. The passage about the fox, learning to trust and love, had become Lily's favorite, perhaps because it reflected their own journey so well. As Claire turned to the requested page, Lily suddenly sat up straighter, her face serious. "You know what?" she declared, turning to face Claire fully. "What is it, sweetie?" "You're my best friend," Lily said with such conviction that Claire felt tears spring to her eyes. The words carried echoes of that first evening at Miller's diner, when a lonely little girl had run up to a stranger and changed all their lives forever. Ethan shifted closer, his voice rough with emotion as he added softly, "Mine too." Claire's heart seemed to expand in her chest, barely able to contain the rush of love she felt for both of them. Tears of joy spilled onto her cheeks as she pulled Lily closer, reaching for Ethan's hand at the same time. The morning sun caught in her tears, turning them to liquid gold. She remembered all the lonely breakfasts in her father's mansion, all the hollow charity galas, all the empty conversations with people who only saw her family's name. None of it compared to this moment. Sitting on a simple park bench with the two people who had taught her what real love felt like. Lily reached up to wipe Claire's tears away with her small fingers. "Don't cry," she said, though she was smiling, somehow understanding these were happy tears. "Sometimes," Claire explained, her voice thick with emotion, "when your heart is so full of love, it spills out through your eyes." Ethan squeezed her hand, his own eyes suspiciously bright. Gone was the guarded dishwasher who had distrusted her intentions. In his place sat a man who had learned to open his heart again, who had chosen love over pride, faith over fear. The book lay forgotten in Claire's lap as Lily wrapped her arms around both of them as far as they would go. A family embrace that spoke of healing, of second chances, of prayers answered in unexpected ways. Claire looked at their joined hands, her manicured fingers intertwined with Ethan's work-roughened ones, Lily's small hand resting on top of both. Such a simple thing, yet it represented everything she had ever wanted. Real connection, authentic love, true belonging. "We're all best friends," Claire narrated gently, her voice carrying all the wonder and gratitude she felt. "Forever." Their shared laughter rang out across the morning air, pure and joyful. A young family reborn from love, faith, and second chances, finding their way home to each other's hearts. Other park visitors smiled as they passed by, touched by the obvious happiness radiating from the trio on the bench. But Ethan, Claire, and Lily barely noticed, lost in their own perfect moment, their own story of redemption and grace. The morning sun continued its climb into the spring sky, blessing their new beginning with its golden light. Around them, the park buzzed with life, children playing, dogs barking, parents chatting, but on their bench, three hearts beat as one, bound together by love that had overcome every obstacle in its path. What would you do if you were in their place? Comment your answer below, and let's see how you'd rewrite the ending. If you enjoyed the story of Claire Montgomery, I handpicked the next story that you will enjoy. Please, don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.